materials could severely impact the government's case.
Fox's Mark Meredith outside the courtroom. Deanna Schulman, representing several media organizations, telling reporters the public has a right to know what led to the unprecedented raid.
It is not the government's job to tell the public what is meaningful in terms of the release of its own information.
Former President Trump issuing a statement saying Magistrate Judge Reinhard rejected the DOJ's cynical attempt to hide the whole affidavit from Americans. The Biden administration wants the government to stop paying for coronavirus vaccines. Wall Street Journal reporting the Department of Health and Human Services will hold a planning session at the end of the month with big drug makers, pharmaceutical companies, and health officials on ways to shift payments for COVID vaccines to the commercial market. Not clear how 30 million people in the U.S. without health insurance would pay for them. Two small planes trying to land at a municipal airport in Northern California collided Thursday in midair, killing at least 2 people. Federal safety investigators will try and learn the reason for the crash. It was cloudy and foggy at the time. The Watsonville, California airport does not have a control tower. Pilots are supposed to use a common air traffic frequency to coordinate their movements with one another. America is listening to Fox News.
Our workforce is changing, and our students need to be prepared to face the challenges that lie ahead.
Real investments in education require real action so that our kids have the best chance to succeed.
We gave teachers a pay raise because we value the important work they do for our children every day.
We provided funds that support children with special needs and their families so that their challenges can be addressed.
We promised to rebuild Simon Sanchez High School, and we are.
We expanded connection to the internet and community programs to empower our children.
We expanded access to training, and we provided scholarships so anyone interested could get certified.
4 years ago, we made these commitments and we delivered.
Let's continue our progress. We are all in this together, and we humbly ask for your vote. This is Governor Lou Leon Guerrero, and I approve this message.
According to a new Fox News poll, 2 Republican Senate candidates in states that could decide control of the Senate have their work cut out for them.
The latest Fox News poll found Democrat Mandela Barnes is ahead of incumbent Wisconsin Republican Senator Ron Johnson by 4 points. In Arizona, Democratic incumbent Senator Mark Kelly is ahead of his Trump-backed rival Blake Masters by 8 points. The poll found in Wisconsin, Barnes is far ahead with independents. Johnson does better than Barnes with rural voters, white evangelicals, and men who don't have college degrees. In Arizona, Masters does better statistically with men and white evangelicals. While inflation is the top voter issue in Wisconsin, followed by abortion, then election integrity and voting issues, in Arizona, inflation is tied with the border, followed by abortion, which is also tied with election security and voting rights issues. Jessica Rosenthal, Fox News.
Police in Alabama say they've arrested the man whom they believe was shooting at cars on I-85 in Auburn Wednesday, seriously injuring one driver. And they say Terrell Brown had several weapons and more than 2,000 rounds of ammunition in his car. The shootings, they say, appeared to be at random. At Yellowstone National Park in Wyoming, an employee found a shoe floating in a hot spring pool. There was a foot still in it. They're trying to determine whose it was and how it got there. Starbucks has been ordered to rehire some of the baristas it fired.
A federal judge ordering Starbucks to reinstate 7 workers who were fired from a store in Memphis after they successfully led the effort to form a union. The National Labor Relations Board asked the courts to intervene. Judge Cheryl Lippman agreed the firings were unlawful and gave Starbucks 5 days to offer to reinstate the employees. Lippman's ruling also requires Starbucks to post the court order in that store. Starbucks opposes unionization but says the firings had nothing to do with organized labor. The coffee chain claims those workers violated company policies by opening the store after hours and inviting non-employees, including a TV crew, inside. Steve Rappaport, Fox News.
And I'm Jack Callahan. This is Fox News.
Gas is expensive, so let the bank come to you. Through our remote deposit capture, you can deposit your checks into your account from your phone. And with our Dynamite Bank Pacific Visa debit card, you can use your money anytime, anywhere. It's the perfect combo.
Now we're banking on the future. Services to choose. Bank Pacific, where others put branches, we place roots.
Equal housing lender. Member FDIC. Crank it up.
Joyce Broadcasting introduces their unbeatable lineup of morning show.
Hands down winners of Guam's morning radio battle.
Daryl Lizama grooves his way through Boss 104 playing Guam's favorite classic hits.
Morning mouth Ray Gibson shakes the cage on 93.3 The Point.
And now, we are proud to announce the Morning Blender with Kyle Mandapat, mixing it up at sunrise on Star 101.
If you're an advertiser trying to reach the most valuable ears, we've got the shows that listeners have been tuning into for decades.
One call gets all three.
671-888-7346. That's 888-REIO.
Welcome to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, the only show on talk radio where common sense is a lot more common. Phone lines are now open at 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, The Point proudly brings you Tall Tales with Senator Bob Klitzkie.
Well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That's what I say every day here on Tall Tales, and I'm going to keep saying it for a long time. So here we are on Tailgater Friday, everybody. So today is the day for everybody to show the colors of Tall Tales. So if you're going to go anywhere downtown, wear your I'm a Tailgater t-shirt. And I'm going to wear mine today and tomorrow when I'm out and around. You know, the folks at Touray really appreciate these Tailgater t-shirts, so I'll be wearing mine down there. And I'm hoping that I run into a lot of tailgaters out there. Now, I know we just started out here on Monday, and some of you may not have received your shirts yet, or heaven forbid, may not have even ordered them yet. But I got a note from Rico today that his was 5-day delivery, so that's pretty fast. So anyhow, Tailgater Friday, every Friday from now on is going to be Tailgater Friday. So having dispensed with the Second Amendment and a little commercial here, and by the way, I'm still working with Jose on that beard. And I remember I said to him yesterday, Jose, I'd really like to have a beard like yours. And Jose's response was, well, Bob, just stop shaving and you'll grow into it. Yeah. So here's a dynamite editorial from the Daily News today. Early voting ends today. Participate in the election process. It's been 2 years since the option to cast votes early was made available for Guam's voters, and a year since the option became a permanent part of Guam law. The new alternative to participating in the election process is a welcome change, and one that thousands already have taken advantage of for this year's primary election. This option to vote early, despite the related expenses and logistical issues, has many benefits which can alleviate some of the already heavy stressors that come with casting a ballot. Heavy stressors.
At least for 3 candidates.
Yeah. With tens of thousands of voters heading out to the polls on the same day to mark their ballots, precincts and polling sites often can become difficult for voters to navigate, especially for those who must work and vote in the later evening hours. Having nearly 2 months to get votes in early at the GEC's early voting center at the Westin may prevent a lot of the usual primary election woes, from heavy traffic and parking problems at voter precincts to voter registration issues that can sometimes arise if a resident is moved or changed voting districts. The opportunity to cast a ballot at the early voting center allows a voter to resolve the issue before the primary. The Daily News urges all readers to take part in this year's primaries election. Whether you decide to vote on this last day of early voting, or if you're like the many political spectators who enjoy all the hospitality tents, food, and festivities of an election, the day of the primary, voting is a sacred right and responsibility that must be taken seriously. Well, it is a right, but it's not a sacred right. There is much to be considered as we collectively choose which of the candidates before us will land a spot on the 2022 general election ballot. Research carefully and exercise your right to actively participate in the government. Well, stressors. You know, I'm going to give you my conservative, old geezer view of what voting is all about. And voting is one of the important duties that a citizen has. And I explained, I wrote a little note in the Daily News as to why I don't think early voting is all that great, because it's not like buying a pair of shoes. What the candidate you vote for today may do something that really would cause you not to vote for him had you not voted already. And as I expressed it, I want to stay right up there in the grandstand watching the game right until the final buzzer buzzes. And then I'm going to pick my all-stars and my most valuable player, et cetera. I'm not going to do it prematurely because there is a risk of error. And if there's anything that we do where we should minimize a risk of error, it's voting. We seem to be pretty good at voting for the wrong people year in, year out. And, of course, I've mentioned so many times on the air here that we all know that holding public office on Guam is actually hereditary. We go through this charade of voting year after year, but it's actually a hereditary undertaking. Ask Judy Wonpat 10, and she'll tell you that the first sentence out of her mouth. Well, my dad was the Washington delegate. I'm interested in people who study and take the time, who learn the issues. I'm not one of these, let's get the vote out. No matter who you vote for, please come and vote. Even if you don't know the first thing about who's running or what the issues are, please come and vote. I'd like to see informed voters come to the polls. And if that means a little bit of inconvenience, maybe a little trouble finding a parking place, maybe you got to stand in line for a little while. I do that every year. I'm not going to vote early. I'll do it every year, and I haven't missed any votes since I could vote. When I first got here, I couldn't vote. The popular mythology was that contract teachers, if a contract teacher voted, he would lose his contract, ipso facto. So it was Governor Camacho that finally broke that logjam, something I've never forgotten. The first Governor Camacho. So my own editorial here is take voting very seriously. And if you haven't voted already, study the issues. Stay on top of it. And when you do vote, make sure that it's a thought process, not an emotion. And I've mentioned on the show before that when Thomas Dewey ran against Harry Truman, Thomas Dewey, a far more qualified candidate than Harry Truman. Harry, if you looked at his paper credentials, was not very qualified at all. He was a product of the Pendergast machine, a political machine in Kansas City, Missouri. And Thomas Pendergast finally went to jail. And when sarcastic newspaper columnists and also radio hosts like Walter Winchell would refer to Truman, they would do it this way when he was a senator, like Senator Joe McCarthy, Republican, Wisconsin. They would say, Democrat Harry Truman, as you were, Harry Truman, Senator Harry Truman, Democrat Pendergast. Because the suspicion was he was in Tom Pendergast's pocket. He wasn't. As a matter of fact, almost the entire Pendergast machine was corrupt except for Truman. So Harry Truman was the token honest man in the Pendergast machine. And, you know, after he came to be president, he was really an accidental president. Because when the Democrats decided on Truman, for vice president, they junked Henry Wallace. And Henry Wallace was way over on the left, you know, the Republican. Oh, you're going to put that communist on the ticket again. So the one thing that Truman had going for him when the Democrats in the smoke-filled room picked Truman was that he wasn't Henry Wallace. That was his strongest feature. And the guys in the smoke-filled room knew that there was no way that Franklin D. Roosevelt would be able to live to the end of his fourth term. If you read up on it, they knew that. He was very sick. But they knew he could win. So that's how Truman got to be president. But looking back on it, Truman is one of my favorite presidents, even though he was a Democrat. He did a lot of things that people didn't give him credit for at the time, like firing Douglas MacArthur. God knows where we'd be if he hadn't fired MacArthur, because MacArthur was one of the most popular people in the whole country at the time. He was a hero. But he didn't understand that civilians control the United States military, so Truman fired him. When Truman left office in 1949, his popularity rating was 25%. But you look back at the historians now, and he's rated pretty well. So a long drawn-out way for me to say, know what you're doing when you go to the polls. Back to Thomas Dewey. One of the reasons that the pundits said that Dewey didn't beat Truman, not the only reason, but a reason, was if you've ever seen a picture of Thomas Dewey, he had a mustache. It wasn't a very good mustache. Yeah. It wasn't a first-class mustache. It was one of those little trimmed mustaches with a point on the end of it. So the pundits said the reason that Dewey lost millions of votes because women didn't like to see a mustache. So he lost a lot of the female vote. Yeah. So that's not the reason to choose a candidate, whether or not he has a mustache. Of course, you probably ought to favor candidates that do have mustaches, but that's another story.
I like to say beards sell T-shirts.
Exactly. Okay, so much for Demi Ekotny. Let's take a look at the card. We've got, of course, we start out with Paul Zerzan versus systemic racism. And then we've got Frank Bloss versus Frank Bloss. Then Dr. Gwynn versus Calamity Jane. Underwood versus Felix and MSN. Levin versus Joey Terlahi. Priscilla Tuncap versus the Civil Service Commission, Levin versus Bell's Law, the incredible shrinking Merrick Garland, Wanpad versus Nelson. I don't think I'll get anywhere near that far today, but got a long calendar today. And let's see here. Today, once again, today is Tailgaters Day, and I encourage anybody who can do a selfie of yourself and post it on Facebook. We'd like to see how sharp you look in that Tailgater T-shirt. Anybody who's a tailgater posting on Facebook, to begin with, is a sharp person. But wearing a Tailgater T-shirt only enhances how sharp you really are. See what I mean? Look at that. Yeah. And just when you're all thinking, Bob, you're as cool as you could possibly be, and then you realize, well, no, Bob's even a little cooler when he's wearing his Tailgater shirt. Yeah, well, of course, whether or not I'm wearing my Tailgater T-shirt, you know that I've always been very proud of my modesty and humility. Okay, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on systemic racism. We all know that the rice is orange. That's the truth. That's the facts. We all know that the agenda, the narrative is that it's red. And we all know that you run a real risk of cancellation if you advance the truth instead of the narrative. going to my usual perusal of the notices of meetings, I find out that something big is coming up at the Guam Library System. Yeah, I don't know what it is. Yeah, but, if there's ever a place for intrigue, chicanery, legerdemain, it's at the Guam Library. So here's their agenda for their meeting on August 26th. Approval of the minutes of the July meeting. Director's report. Travel report for ALA conference. Well, I'd kind of like to hear how that went. I guess they must have sent the librarian to a conference. I suspect that a lot more people are going to be applying to be the librarian now that they found that out. They also have a internet cafe resolution. They've got old business, MOUs, GPLs, MTDI, and AmeriCorp. 5-year strategic plan. Fiscal 2024 budget submission. New business. And then they had the wherewithal to put the word none after new business. But then we get to the exciting part. Executive session. Whoa. Now, I wonder what's going on at the law library that is such a sensitive, potentially explosive nature that we can't find out about it. The executive session at the library. And then after that, they're going to have open discussion and adjournment. How long do you think people are going to sit out there looking at their iPhones waiting for the executive session to get over so they can shoot their mouths off? All right. Anyhow, thanks to Senator Brown, we know what's going on in these meetings, as it was her bill became 3634. Okay, next on the card, the continuing saga of Frank Bloss. And this time around, I've labeled it Frank Bloss versus Frank Bloss. And you'll recall that Frank Bloss came up with one of the better lines in the battle of teacher pay raises, where my analysis was that Frank Bloss got caught in the governor's political mousetrap because the governor is going to get credit for giving teachers a pay raise, and it looks like Frank Bloss and Tony Atta are trying to take it away. So it's a no-win proposition for Frank Bloss. That's my analysis. And, Frank Bloss wrote a 2-page letter with about 0.8 Times New Roman type. I guess he wanted to get it all on 3 pages. It's really dense. And, no, it's actually, it's just 2 pages. And his leading card is, I don't know what's going on. I'm confused. And then he played the game on Lou's home field, and he came up with what ordinarily I would appreciate as a really good line. But it is not a line that exudes the proposition of leadership. So Frank went through this long dichotomy of you said this and the law said that, and you got all of these public laws, and he says in May, this paragraph, in May 17, 2022, email correspondence, the author of the message wrote Competitive Wage Act educators and counselors pay plan addressed GDOE's fiscal year 2022 estimated shortfall as a result of the unfunded government Guam mandate, Public Law 28-36, and further amended Public Law 28-68. The educators' pay plan will take effect May 23, 2022. And there are several public laws cited in his correspondence, and even the governor's. And I cautioned everybody yesterday that's not the way to deal with the law, public laws. So after, stating his confusion because so many public laws are referenced, this is his line. Now, with all these different laws being cited, it begs to ask the question, who's on first? And when that came up yesterday, Jose said,
I don't know.
I think you said, what?
What's on second?
Yeah, what's on second? I don't know is on third. I don't give a darn. That's our short trip. Yeah, I can't tell you about it.
Why?
That's our catcher. Interestingly enough, the only player not mentioned is the right fielder.
Really?
Yeah, the right fielder is not mentioned. Everybody else is mentioned somewhere.
The right fielder is not mentioned.
Not mentioned.
So when your right is checked, it's not mentioned.
Exactly. He doesn't get a check. Every penny of it, right? And I wonder if that's why, I don't know if you remember when you were playing baseball, Jose, and you choose up sides and you got enough for 9 on a side. Where does the weakest player get to play?
I played right field.
Right field. Because most batters are right-handed. They're going to hit the ball to left field or center field. So if you're out there at right, you can't screw up as often as if you're somewhere else. Yeah. Okay, so that's kind of brings you up to date here on who's on first. Now, there's a story in today's Daily News. As discussions of the fiscal 2023 Budget Act proceed to funding for education Thursday, Republican lawmakers continued questioning the Guam Department of Education officials about how an educator pay plan approved by Governor Leon Guerrero in May was formulated. Senators Tony Atta and Frank Blas Jr. took issue with Leon Guerrero's authority to sign off on the pay plan during budget talks Tuesday. The two referenced the 2022 budget law, which authorized an educator pay study on the condition the governor submit an implementation plan to the Speaker by September 30, 2022, after which raises would take effect in June of 2023. Atta and Blas said no implementation plan was submitted for the raises that went into effect in May. The raises were paid for using Guam DOE federal funding, but the funds expire September 30. After that, the DOE will need authorization from the legislature to use roughly $26 million in local revenue to foot the bill in fiscal 2023. And this is part of the political mousetrap. So the governor used her federal funds, which she can use without any legislative approval at all, to put the raises in place till September 30, playing a little bit of pay raise chicken with the legislature. Okay, don't fund it. Let's see what happens. He probably prompt another teacher strike like the one in 81 if that happened. So then Frank Blas wants to play statutory checkmate after that. Our law says this, and anyhow, going on with the article. Leon Guerrero, in a Tuesday letter, asserted the authority to update pay scales for government employees remains with the Director of Administration, who authored the May memo, recommended the updated pay plan as it has since the passage of Public Law 2142 roughly 30 years ago. On Thursday, acting DOE Superintendent Francis Santos, who has held his post for about a month, he's probably regretting it already. He's probably saying something like, God, I had something relatively uncomplicated like running a hospital. And now I jumped into this mess. Santos provided a copy of the updated educator pay plan to all lawmakers. Santos said he produced it after he and the administration had communicated about how to apply what the public law is saying with respect to submitting a plan. Now, here's where the reporter comes in. Do you know anybody named administration, Jose?
Nope.
I don't either. So to say he produced it after the administration If you don't put a name in there, it means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. It could have been the lady that answers the phone when you call DOE. And I can only say today that I'm asking you, this body, to accept this plan and adopt it. Blas asked Santos for more information about how the plan was created. Santos said that neither he nor Frank Cooper Nurse, that's one name, Cooper-Nurse, Deputy Superintendent for Finance, also present during the hearing, were there when the educator pay plan was drafted or signed off in May. Guam DOE did provide input for the new pay plan, but Santos said he couldn't account for why Leon Guerrero decided to increase pay by 20% instead of 16% recommended by the administration agency. Santos agreed to provide more information on how Guam DOE justified to the U.S. DOE the use of federal funds to pay the raises. Now, in the governor's letter, she said that under 4 GCA 405, the Director of Administration could delegate power to a laundry list of people to deal with salary. I called her out on that because I read 405 on it, and it doesn't. It deals with discipline, among other things. That was the Oxford comma section, remember, Jose? So, there is a certain amount of confusion here because the Director of Administration said that it is he who has the authority, and we've got Francis Santos coming over saying we did the work. There's nothing wrong with that. If I were the Director of Administration and I were dealing with it and I had confidence in the folks at the personnel office over at Department of Education, I would do the same thing. You know, can you guys come up with a salary schedule we could use? But it would have been better for Byrne if he had mentioned that at the time he was testifying. He's probably going to get burned on this. Okay, some $100,000 provided for an educator pay study in the 22 budget was never used, Cooper Nurse said. Santos asked the money be used to pay for air conditioners. Sometimes, Francis, it's better just to shut up. Blas said the raises presented a dilemma for the legislature, though the plan Santos provided helped. So here's Frank Blas again, a dilemma. You know, if anybody who wants to present his dilemma, his confusion, is not knowing what's going on, wanting to know who's on first as leadership, I don't think I want that guy in the legislature. I want people who take a hold of things. And if Frank Blas really wanted to talk about this, you know, if he wanted to follow the path he was taking, it would have been like this. Governor Leon Guerrero broke the law, and she must be held to account because she used her political position to engage in politics by creating a mess built on teacher salaries that we're going to have to clean up. And we will clean it up. But we're not going to let her get away with that. Okay, let's take a short break here.
Shop and Win is back at Micronesia Mall. Beginning August 6th, shop and redeem receipts for a chance to win instant prizes from Burger King or Foot Locker, or receive a grand prize entry form for our first raffle drawing on November 12th for your chance to win a 2022 Toyota Corolla LE courtesy of Atkins Scroll Toyota. Plus, 10 lucky runners-up will receive a $250 gift certificate from Goodwin Travel and Tour for tickets for Philippine Airlines.
Shop more, win more.
Only at Micronesia Mall. Terms and conditions apply.
Half a day. This is Claire Manglona from Security Title. A power of attorney can be a useful tool in a real estate transaction, but if abused, it can result in devastating loss. Choosing your representative should be done with the utmost care and should be very specific about the powers being granted. To mitigate loss, the team at Security Title confirms with the owner prior to using a power of attorney to sell the property. Each transaction is unique. Let the professionals at Security Title use our experience to facilitate a secure closing. We are here to help.
We now return to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, soaring over the confusion with his superpowers of truth. call 888-TALK. That's 888-8255.
Okay, I'm going to go back to this, but I just peeked at Henry Monglonia's post. It looks like the folks in Barstow are going to see what a real tailgater looks like. Henry Monglonia got his. Congratulations, Henry. So back to Frank Bloss here. The subheading in the next part of the story is dilemma. Bloss said the raises presented a dilemma for the legislature, though the plan Santos provided help. A dilemma. That prevailing statute says that pay raises don't take effect until June 2023. But obviously, it's already been started. And this is something, now Frank really shows his leadership capabilities here. He says, but the pay raises have already been started. And this is something that this body is going to have to deliberate. Whoa! Whoa, man. Yeah, we're going to talk about it. I've got a couple of writers working on my floor speech right now. We'll show the governor, by gosh. We're going to deliberate this. He recognized that teachers and students wanted clarity on the issue. Teachers don't want clarity on the issue.
They want the raise.
They want the money. Yeah. And then he said, I assure you, Mr. Santos, that we will work towards that, towards clarity. Atta thanked Santos for the plan he provided. Had this just been done from the very beginning, we wouldn't find ourselves in this situation, Atta said. The best teacher I ever had my whole life, Sam Kaplan, freshman English, had a bulletin posted across the top of the blackboards, a long one. It was a saying attributed to a writer named John Greenleaf Whittier. And it went like this: of all sad words of tongue or pen, the saddest are these. It might have been. Yeah. Tony Atta picked up on it and rephrased it by saying, had this just been done from the very beginning, we wouldn't find ourselves in this situation. And even then, he doesn't have a good handle on the English language. He's talking about from the very beginning. Doesn't he know how to write the word get-go? Yeah. I got a feeling he probably doesn't listen to Tall Tales if he's using from the very beginning instead of get-go. No wonder these guys screwed it up so bad. They're not getting guidance from Tall Tales. Okay, but then there is at least one Republican,
who understands it,
who knows what the hell's going on and is going to speak up about it. And she said nobody can clarify which part of the law or which law actually was the basis for authorizing these pay raises and then obligating the people of Guam moving forward to quite a substantial cost that we have no idea, nobody in here has any idea whether a year or two from now we will have the ability to continue to pay, she said. Guam DOE has the money to fund the pay increases in the proposed fiscal 2023 budget. Atta is a Republican lieutenant governor gubernatorial candidate. Brown, Bloss, and Leon Guerrero are seeking re-election this year.
I don't understand the addition of that.
And they do it as a matter of course.
Yeah. It's like, well, what about Frank Santos's future plans and everybody else in this story, right?
Yeah, and then there's one more thing that Brown, this is Brown's leadoff line, and this shows how senators behave when they're dealing with issues. Senator Joanne Brown said that the plan Santos provided didn't make the issue go away, and the teachers were being played in the process. All right, well, at least we got one Republican senator over there who knows what being in the minority is all about.
I was waiting for somebody to bring that up because when Frank Bluss Jr. said the raises present a dilemma, it was like what you talked about, quoting the administration. The raises aren't the problem. It's how they were approached and how they were thrown out, and the teachers and everybody else involved were being pawns in the whole game.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's what needed to be exposed.
But what he highlighted was his own confusion, his own dilemma. There's something really wrong here because I don't know what's going on. That's not fair. All right, next we've got Dr. Wynn versus Calamity Jane. Now, you'll recall Dr. Wynn. Dr. Wynn is a courageous guy, you know. I hope Dr. Wynn's a tailgater because he's a good man. He was the chairman of the Governor's Physicians Advisory Board. One day the governor came out and said, this is what the advisory board wants me to do, and did something silly like setting up roadblocks or made kids wear their masks when they were taking a shower after PE or some silly thing like that. And on Monday, Gwen came out and said, we never agreed to that. And that's when our New Jersey listener posted on Facebook, I'm from New Jersey. And if that happened, Gwen would wake up with a horse's head on the foot of his bed. All you folks that liked The Godfather. So, and he's spoken out when someone needs to speak out before, even if he disagrees with the governor, even if he disagrees with everybody. He's courageous. And he's done it again. And this is what the story says. This is the Daily News. This is Gwen versus Calamity Jane. And this is an open letter. Dear people of Guam, we are currently facing a health care crisis that involves our island's cherished and vulnerable population, expectant mothers and their babies. Guam is critically lacking physicians who specialize in obstetrics and gynecology. They're called OBGYNs. I don't know how to pronounce that, so I just pronounce it OBGYNs. We currently only have 7 OBGYNs to care for the entire pregnant population of Guam. Of these 7 OBGYNs, only 3 are full-time, and the other 4 are part-time and semi-retired. For years, as our OBGYNs have been busy day and night with obstetric care, that means managing prenatal care and labor delivery, it has been difficult for women to get gynecological care locally, thus requiring them to go off-island for care. Let me repeat that. Requiring them to go off-island for care. Now, we keep hearing this all the time, right? This is something we must avoid at all. If a woman wants to have her go off-island, whoa, we can't possibly have that. Ridiculous, travesty. More recently, the situation has become significantly worse with the departure of 2 full-time OBGYNs and is likely going to worsen with the impending retirement of a couple more OBGYNs. As a result of this ongoing and worsening shortage, pregnant women are coming to their primary care providers for help as they are unable to get appointments with an OB. The lucky few who do manage to get scheduled with OB must wait months, often entering their 2nd trimester, before they are even able to be seen. Now, I got to stop here for a second. The way you can bring about a judgment of a society is to both ends of the life spectrum. How do we treat mothers and newborns, and how do we treat really old folks? I learned in a briefing back at Command and General Staff College back in 1988, the Army said the Soviet Union can't last a whole lot longer. based on two statistics. Their infant mortality rate is going up. Their life expectancy is going down, which means a society, an economy that's really in trouble. So here we are. You know, we can't even afford OBGYNs.
It's because we've turned the definition of healthcare on its head.
Exactly.
This is the healthcare we ought to be talking about and be angry about. But instead, we have the governor going out and looking for abortionists. Healthcare is not abortion. Abortion is not healthcare.
And that's why this is on the card as Dr. Gwynn versus Calamity Jane. Exactly. Let's see. Prenatal care is essential for the well-being of pregnant women and their babies, and a lack of delay in care during this critical period can lead to complications for both the mother and her baby. And her baby. Wow, he's looking for another horse's head, isn't he?
Oh.
Yeah, he's
not her blob of tissues.
Yeah.
Clump of cells.
Well, her.
Oh, that too.
Yeah.
Double.
Yeah.
Double
birthing, the birthing person. Yeah. Not to mention potential birth defects and other conditions that can be treatable or even preventable with early and adequate prenatal care. Primary care physicians are not equipped to provide comprehensive management of pregnant women, especially those with high-risk pregnancies and underlying medical conditions. To complicate this difficult situation even further, Guam also does not currently have a neonatologist to care for newborns who are born very premature or with other conditions requiring intensive care after birth. Yes,
Let's remember, we put that out there and it should invoke some sort of sympathy or empathy, but the one who is elected into Adelup right now, our governor, testified against these kind of conditions.
Exactly. We don't need...
Too expensive.
Yeah, we don't need neonatologist care. Let the poor newborn die. Because we did a cost benefit analysis, it would cost too much. So the savings are coming right up front now. We encourage you to discuss this with our leaders. Yeah. We discuss, Governor, I want to tell you something about Dr. Gwynn's letter to the people of Guam about reproductive health care. He says we need more OBGYNs, to which the governor says, off with his head. Yeah, the Red Queen strikes again. We want our community to be fully aware of this crisis as it affects the health and well-being of our women and children, and is a very important issue to consider for those planning to extend their families. We encourage you to discuss this with our leaders. We implore our leaders to work toward a solution. An immediate solution to consider would be for the Department of Public Health and Social Services and Guam Memorial Hospital to hire locum tenens, GYNs, OBGYNs. Locum tenens means temporary hires. Fancy, they're pretending to be lawyers. They're, using fancy Latin terms. Doctors who can travel to Guam to fill positions on a temporary basis would therefore be a short-term immediate solution for our island until we're able to recruit more long-term, full-time OBGYNs. And, of course, it would be very expensive. And it would cause a lot of morale problems because when they bring the locum tenens, nurses, and others, they get paid a lot of money to come over here. And Gwynn winds up by saying, we must address this matter urgently and take action now, as the lives of our mothers and babies are at stake. Now, the other party here, Gwynn versus Calamity Jane. The Bureau of Women's Affairs. Now, yesterday I went through that long article about how the Marxists are trying to convince you that everything you thought you knew is wrong and backwards and upside down, and how they change vocabulary, and they're trying to gaslight everybody into thinking along their lines, so they can create enough confusion in our society that it'll be opened up to Marxism. And that's exactly what we're doing here. You know, we can't afford OBGYNs. What do OBGYNs do? What are they engaged in? Repeat after me. Reproductive health care. Reproductive health care. Yeah, okay, let's take a short break and we'll come back to Calamity Jane.
Are you looking for a new place to hang out with your friends? Let's go along the sidelines at Sidelines Bar and Grill. Located at 154 Iriarty Road, Unit 4 and 5 in Tamuning behind Royal Bigs. Sidelines, a hidden gem with nothing but great things to offer. Great atmosphere, great food, top shelf drinks, and a great team. What are we waiting for? Let the fun begin at Sidelines Bar and Grill. Open daily from 3 p.m. to 2 a.m. See you there.
Guam Regional Medical City was awarded Advanced Primary Stroke Center certification from the Joint Commission. What does this mean? It means our neuroscience team is equipped with the latest technology and a team of the finest neurological doctors to treat stroke, which is one of the leading causes of death on Guam. GRMC, reflecting our commitment to providing safe and quality patient care. For more information about GRMC, visit us at grmc.gu or to make an appointment, call 671-633-GRMC.
Okay, so here we are. Reproductive health care deals with women becoming pregnant, and I'm going to set you straight. I know there's a lot of confusion out there, but only women can become pregnant. Men cannot become pregnant, never have been, never will be able to become pregnant. Reproductive health care deals with women who have become pregnant, their pregnancy, and the birth of their children, and some postnatal care of their children. That's what reproductive health care is all about. Unless you're a pro-abortionist like Calamity Jane. Calamity Jane will tell you, oh no, reproductive health care deals with a woman's right to choose. Choose what? Coke instead of Pepsi? No, to kill the helpless, innocent human residing inside her body. That's what choice means. It means killing a human, an innocent, helpless human. That's what reproductive health care means to them. If you're going to have a Bureau of Women's Affairs, wouldn't you think that this would be kind of the centerpiece of what they do?
And it's not, you know, a lot of people are thinking, well, this are the two polar sides of a political argument. The birth rate, a healthy birth rate, is vital to the health of any area, any country. And when you have a low birth rate, then you have to be very concerned. That's why these doctors are very concerned. Because if we don't have a population, we don't have a community, we don't have a society, and we might as well not exist anymore.
Yeah. The two strongest hardwired instincts in humans, number one, self-preservation, number two, propagation of the race, children, offspring. More people. And the Calamity Jane and her gang think that the most important, one of the strongest instincts in a birthing person's hardwired brain is convenience. Convenience trumps everything else. Attorney Vanessa Williams, one of the leaders of the gang, it's impossible to separate our choice of whether and when to have children from every other choice in our lives. So the Bureau of Women's Affairs, which ought to be really concerned about all women, especially women who are mothers, who are going to be mothers, who have been mothers, etc., how hard has Calamity Jane been going out beating the bushes to find OBGYNs to come to Guam? How hard has she been out there beating the bushes to find an abortionist to come to Guam? Very hard. You know, she's been doing that. That's probably she's gotten more press on that than anything else she's ever done. Of course, she hasn't done anything else, so that's a pretty easy calculation to make. She and the governor were in correspondence with Kaneshiro and Redu a couple abortionists from Hawaii, both of whom came out here, got admitted to medical practice here on the island, scurried back to Honolulu, and signed on as plaintiffs in the ACLU suit dealing with chemical abortion. The ACLU was able to get an injunction prohibiting the government of Guam from enforcing a key part of the chemical abortion law. That case is now on appeal in the Ninth Circuit. So, you know, this is just mind-boggling. Where, you know, a doctor has to come out and tell us this, and the lady at the Bureau of Women's Affairs is peddling abortions instead of live childbirth, which is the essence of every society. I don't even need to go to religion or morals or anything like that. It's just so obvious how wrong-headed can people be when their own selfishness is the only policy that they want to stand up for, and they invent this gigantic charade, a woman's bodily autonomy. In order to protect a woman's bodily autonomy, she has to be able to kill a helpless human inside her body. A woman's ability to choose a helpless, innocent, the vocabulary change, and of course it all fits in with this whole neo-Marxist setup that I've been talking about, going all the way back to 1922, the Frankfurt School, Antonio Gramsci, our local useful idiots, practitioners of the whole reproductive health charade. So, you know, really, I'm going to go back to the editorial in today's paper in my long soliloquy about voting and what's important when you vote. When we stop to realize why we are where we are right now, whose fault it is, it's our fault. You know, Frank Uggan was not a pro-abortionist. Frank Uggan was a pro-lifer. And he came within 200 votes of beating Lou in the primary. So everybody who voted for Lulian Guerrero in that primary, we don't need to worry about the general because the Republican candidate in the general election got shot down. Sort of a self-inflicted wound in a way at the Glock party. So, you know, when you got someone who is not only a pro-abortionist, but brags about it and is public about it, and you vote for that person anyhow, then you got a day like today where a well-respected physician comes out and says, our mothers and children are in grave danger because we don't have enough OBGYNs. And then a member of your cabinet is luring people over here to file suit on chemical abortions, going out advertising, beating the bushes to bring abortionists over here. Now, this is, you know, it's just, it's flabbergasting.
Well, she's kind of in her own dilemma now. So how can she respond positively to Dr. Huen? And I think the American Medical Society put out something else, or medical clinic put out something from where he's from.
Yeah, I've seen Vince's.
And still advocate for abortionists, because one is death by intention, and the other one is same deaths, same sicknesses, but it doesn't fit with the abortion rhetoric.
It doesn't.
So how is she going to deal with this?
Yeah. Maybe she'll get Frank Blas, who's really good at dealing with dilemmas, to help her. Let's take a break for the big halftime show, folks. I'll come back for a little bit more Calamity Jane, and then we'll go on to Underwood versus Felix.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
We'll see some of it. I'm Jack Callahan, Fox News. At least those parts of the affidavit used to get the Mar-a-Lago search warrant that the Justice Department doesn't cross out.
The magistrate judge will give the DOJ 1 week to propose redactions, but lawyer Deanne Schulman, representing news organizations, says
At this juncture, he is not inclined to keep the entirety of the search warrant application and its affidavit under seal.
the feds say if they redact everything sensitive, there likely won't be much text for the public to read or understand. Making too much public, they say, could endanger cooperating witnesses.
Fox's Eben Brown, and from the former president.
The Trump team reacting in a statement. Magistrate Judge Reinhart rejected the DOJ's cynical attempt to hide the whole affidavit from Americans. No redaction should be necessary, and the whole affidavit should be released, given the Democrats' penchant for using redactions to hide government corruption, just like they did with the Russia hoax.
Fox's Matt Finn. Alan Weisselberg, the former CEO of the Trump Organization, pleaded guilty yesterday to tax evasion by not reporting lavish fringe benefits as income. He is the only person who's been charged in a years-long investigation of the Trump Organization by the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. In Florida, 20 people have been arrested and charged with voter fraud for casting ballots when they weren't eligible to, because Governor Ron DeSantis says they are convicted felons.
They do not have the right to vote. They have been disenfranchised under Florida law. And Amendment 4 that passed specifically included people that have been convicted of sexual assault and homicide from being able to have an automatic restoration of their voting rights.
If found guilty on the voter fraud charges, they each could get another 5 years in jail and some heavy fines. Wall Street Thursday, the Dow up 18 points. NASDAQ gained 27. The S&P 500 closing 9 points higher. America is listening to Fox News.
There is no denying that these past 2.5 years have brought unprecedented challenges, where our health, safety, and way of life have been completely upended as a result of COVID. Having served as governor during many challenges, I know a thing or two about the importance of strong and steady leadership in times of crisis. Trust me when I say that I have full confidence that Lou and Josh are the leaders Guam needs at this pivotal time in our history. Lou and Josh have led our island through some of our darkest times, and because they stayed the course, our island is on the verge of a recovery that will infuse life back into an economy thirsting for a fresh start. I've said it before, and I mean it still. People of Guam, you're still the one.
This is Governor Lou Guerrero, and I approve this message.
Attention iPhone users, there's another potential security flaw in the operating system.
Apple is now warning of serious security vulnerabilities for iPhones, iPads, and Macs. The software flaws could potentially allow hackers to take complete control of these devices. That would allow intruders to impersonate the owner and run software in the owner's name. The company says it's, quote, aware of a report that this issue may have been actively exploited. Security experts have advised users to update affected devices. Shayna Stulin, Fox News.
A woman has testified in R. Kelly's federal pornography trial. The former singer abused her hundreds of times before she turned 18. Kelly is already serving a 30-year prison term on a federal racketeering conviction. 3 men, including a mafia hitman, have been charged in the killing of a notorious Boston crime boss. James Whitey Bulger was beaten to death in a West Virginia prison in 2018, just hours after being transferred from a prison in Florida where he'd been serving a life sentence for 11 murders and other crimes. A Connecticut man has been sentenced to a long prison term for killing his wife. That case cracked in part by the activity tracker she was wearing.
He is completely steadfast in his innocence and dedicated to proving his innocence.
Richard Debate's lawyer Trent LaLima, after Debate, was sentenced to 65 years in prison for the 2015 murder of his wife Connie in Ellington, Connecticut. Debate told police a masked man broke into their home, killed his wife, and tied him up. State police say data on Connie's Fitbit showed she was moving around for about an hour after the time Debate says she was shot. Debate's lawyer says he will appeal. Lisa Lacera, Fox News.
The sister of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un says her country will never accept South Korea's offer of economic benefits in exchange for denuclearization, calling the proposal foolish. I'm Jack Callahan. This is Fox News.
Come try Guam's original Chamorro restaurant with Pica's best 5 years running. Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro. Experience Chef Peter's candied salmon over scallion coconut rice, octopus to naktak, Chamorro platter, and their award-winning gourmet hamburgers. Or if you're looking for something healthy, try their keto-friendly menu. Come and enjoy Mezcla's half-a-day service at their Hagåtña and Grand Plaza Tumon location. Call their Hagåtña location at 479-2652 for reservations.
We're already Pica's best radio station, but we're always looking for ways to be even better.
Announcing the point on Alexa.
In addition to our FM and HD radio feeds, our incredible app, informative website, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live, you can now tell Alexa to stream The Point. And your smart speaker will start playing whatever we're saying. News and views 24/7 with your 4-word command. Alexa, stream The Point.
Okay, so here we are, second half, Tall Tales, another great halftime show here on Tall Tales, and I'm going to wrap it up here with Dr. Gwen versus Calamity Jane. I don't know how more forceful I could put it, but we are living in the beginning of a disaster, is the best way to put it, where a noted, respected, reliable physician who comes forward and tells us that we are in grave danger of beginning to thin out our population because we're not taking care of mothers and babies, and we have an administration headed by a lady who testified at the legislature that when if a baby survives an abortion, physicians should just let the baby die. No neonatologist necessary here. She has been openly and blatantly pro-abortion since before she ran for office, notwithstanding that she's a nurse.
At least since 1990.
At least since 1990. She has hired somebody named Jane Flores at what is euphemistically called the Bureau of Women's Affairs, which is actually the Bureau of Abortions, who has done nothing but promote abortion, get in line with the whole woke aspect of it, talking in terms of birthing persons instead of mothers, referring to abortion as women's reproductive health, etc., and the whole 9 yards, as we say. So this is serious, and I put the blame on us because we put Lulian Guerrero in the front office. And going back to my little soliloquy at the beginning of the show about the editorial, when you go to the polls, you have to think about this. If you want a pro-abortion government, a let the women figure it out for themselves government, where reproductive rights means killing helpless, innocent humans in the womb, But reproductive health does not mean having enough OBGYNs on the island to take care of women and babies and not having a neonatologist. Then Governor Leon Guerrero is certainly the person for you. If not, then anybody else is better. Yeah, so let's see, what is that set of initials here? ABL, able. I'm an able voter, ABL, anybody but Lou. Okay, let's see, I got somebody here in the green room. Let's hope it's Dr. Gwen. I'd like to shake his hand, at least verbally. It's our Fred. Man, we haven't heard from our Fred from a long time. Hey, good to have you back on board, our Fred.
Hi, Judge. How you doing?
Doing great.
I listen to your show. Of course, you get my feathers ruffled every now and then I have to call you, right?
Okay.
So I like your topic today. Very important, healthcare on Guam. And I'm going to start my talk with you. I'm going to start and finish with the same thing. If they haven't fixed Guam's problem, obviously for senators 2 years and governors 4 years. If you haven't fixed the issues in 2 years or the 4 years that you were in, then it's time for change. So the people of Guam need to know that. If in 2 years or 4 years it's the same thing or worse, it's time for a change. Going on healthcare, I recently had an episode where I ended up in the hospital. And I'm going to tell you that the personnel at GMH, the doctors, the nurses, hands down, trying to do a great job. Bob, they do a wonderful job, and they're trying their best, from the travel nurses to the travel doctors to the local nurses to the people that run GMH. When I say run, meaning nurses and doctors, they are trying to do a very good job. The problem lies in the support that they get from management, the administration. That is lacking to the point where there is none. And from speaking with nurses and doctors while I was in the hospital for a number of days I was there, you can tell that they're frustrated. They're overworked, by the way. You got nurses working like 10, 12-hour shifts. They're overworked. They're trying their best. They're very courteous, very nice. And, you know, we have, everyone has their opinion of GMH. And I'll tell you, being in there and staying there for a few days, they're really trying to do a good job. It's just that they do not have the support from the administration and which means senators as well. And the systems that the administrator at GMH, they don't have any support from them. Judge, they have worn out equipment that's 15 years old, 20 years old, that does not work. They have machines that overheat, so they can't use it every day for treating patients. I couldn't believe the things I would ask them, like, why is this procedure only done like twice a week? They're saying because our equipment overheats. In this day and age, to hear such a thing, it's appalling that when a patient needs treatment or a procedure done, you can't do it because your machine or your equipment overheats. So you only schedule it for twice a week. So the patients that all of Guam's people that needs these procedures or things done, they have to wait. But it's life and death issues we're talking about. But no one knows this stuff until you start talking to them. So equipment overheats, things like blood pressure devices, the Velcro on the straps can't even hold because they just pop open. Then the nurse has to go run and find another one. And the other one has the same issue. Then they find another one finally to get your blood pressure because the Velcro is all worn out and they haven't been replaced. Echocardiogram machines are running like 15 years old and outdated. just to give you an example. So instead of spending so much money, like they propose a $50 million project in EPOW to build a smart park, how about putting $50 million, or how about just putting $25 million even into GMH and replacing equipment that needs to be done, replacing all these worn out, outdated equipments? How about putting the money in there? GMH is a great hospital. We don't need to tear it down. It just needs to be refurbished or reinforced. That's all. And if we need another hospital, we have the Oka Point, the one where the old GMH used to be. You can have 2 hospitals. Many hospitals in the U.S. have 2 or 3, 4, 5 buildings. You can have GMH1 and GMH2 just down the street, and you can have a like GMH, the original GMH one right now can be taking care of certain issues like pulmonary or OBGYN issues or whatever. The second hospital just down the street, which can support each other, can have a different set of procedures done there. And they're right down the street and also in the vicinity of other clinics. So they have a support system. You don't have to build one at, I don't know, miles away at some soccer field or wherever it's being proposed at.
Yeah, well, the reason is that there isn't the ferry boat to Cocos Island doesn't run anymore. That was the first choice. Second choice was Eagles Field in Manilo.
Yeah, we don't need, and the people of Guam need to stand up and speak up, because they don't know what's going on really, or some of them do. Just build a new hospital down. We do need a new hospital. We have a population that's growing. Just build it at the old hospital site and keep the original GMH that's there right now. Refurbish it, fix it up. That's all it needs. It needs support from administration. It doesn't need to be torn down, and just replace equipment. And that's it. And they need support. The doctors and nurses that are trying to do their job, they leave because they're frustrated. A lot of the doctors are from the States. They're there. I don't know why they're there. Either they're travel doctors or they actually doing their residency here, but they want to stay. But they're frustrated that the system, such as support from the administration or system in the hospital itself, they're frustrated with it because that's not how a hospital is supposed to run. These professional doctors who have graduated from universities know the principles of running a hospital and how it should be, protocols, procedures, but they don't have that at GMH. GMH is doing its own thing. It's like island-style systems, whereas a hospital doesn't run on island style. It runs on a hospital system. So again, if you haven't done it and haven't fixed it in 2 to 4 years, then it's time for change. Thanks, Judge.
Yeah, good message. Glad to have you back, and I hope your health is. I hope you're in good health, and you don't have to go back there again real soon. So thanks a lot for calling.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, there you go.
That location of a new hospital is Oka Point. And I don't know, have any information on this, on the choice or the reason why the governor chooses Eagle Point or wherever, Eagles Field.
Yeah.
But maybe the location of the hospital at Oka Point isn't desirable for the same reason a foster home wasn't desirable there.
Yeah, it's the neighborhood, you know.
The neighborhood.
Yeah, it's very possible. And then some late breaking news, the military said that, we're going to have to be putting gear all over the island for our missile defense, and having some of that stuff next to a hospital might not work out very well. So we may not get Eagles Field. We may be forced into Oka Point.
And it's interesting that I haven't seen in the paper any articles on the fact that Ken Leon Guerrero got almost nil documentation on Eagles Field in a hospital plan.
Yeah.
There doesn't seem to be one.
It's not news. Yeah. Reproductive health is the real headliner here, right? Okay, next we go to Underwood versus Felix Camacho and Michael San Nicolas. And this is something that the Daily News ran front page. It's very important for them. We're getting close to the primary, and the Daily News wanted to bring in a pundit, a political pundit, someone who understands politics, is able to analyze and explain who's doing what to whom, how well it works, how well it doesn't work. It's kind of like the stuff I do here on Tall Tales. And I used to write a column for the Daily News once upon a time, back around the turn of the century. I probably wouldn't pass muster with them now. I wouldn't be woke enough for the Daily News.
Definitely not for the Post.
Yeah. So the Daily News brought in Robert Underwood to comment about Felix, Lou, and Michael San Nicolas. And I put it on the calendar as Underwood versus Felix and Michael San Nicolas, because both Felix and Michael San Nicolas have beaten Underwood in elections. Felix beat him twice. Yeah, Felix beat him twice, and Michael San Nicolas beat him once. So I'm sure you can depend on Robert to be objective when he talks about these guys.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. So it's taking stock of Guam's gubernatorial tickets. As usual, at this point of our political calendar, the gubernatorial races are commanding our attention. With a week left before the primary, the viability and legitimacy of the San Nicolas Matanani team seem to be at risk. Wait a minute, is this the Daily News or the Post? Yeah, second sentence of the article, right? Nobody knows where San Nicolas is for sure, and his public appearances are few and not well attended. But this kind of phantom candidacy has served him well up to now. He is very present on social media, where he projects optimism and outrage for being a victim at the same time. Yeah, going along with Grandma Klitzkie's rejoinder, turned inside out. Grandma always used to say, Bobby, if you can't say something good about somebody, don't say anything at all. Robert's turned it inside out. If you can't say something bad about Michael San Nicolas, don't say anything at all. It's remarkable that in the midst of FBI investigations, Department of Justice referrals, and official and bipartisan expressions of disgust for him, that he's still in the race. Add to that a running mate who knows how to eloquently read the news but lacks knowledge of key issues. The island faces an uncertain future with these two. You'd be better off voting for Lulian Guerrero and Josh Tenorio. I just added that in, but that's kind of the message, isn't it? And then we'll turn to Felix Camacho. Camacho Ada. And what about Camacho Ada? They are claiming a new season, but not necessarily a new team. They aren't making a lot of noise right now, and the suspicion is that Republicans are encouraged to vote on the Democrat side of the ballot for San Nicolas. Not a bad idea. The Camacho Ada team unveiled a platform of 7 pillars. They included family values, but didn't give an explanation of what constitutes a family. Oh, you have to, we don't know what a family is unless you define it. Wow. I mean, that's enough right there. You know, everybody knows what a family, everybody used to know what a family was until neo-Marxism came along, and now you aren't woke. If you say, yeah, a family's a mother and father and children, sometimes grandma and grandpa live with mom and dad, that's a family. It's not 2 guys who really like each other who adopted kids. That's not a family. Are you listening? What's his first name? The mayor, Pete Buttigieg. Yeah, Pete Buttigieg, who was a Secretary of Transportation, and when we had all of these supply chain issues, he had to take a month of maternity leave.
Wait a second. Maternity leave. They defined it as maternity leave.
Yeah. I'm not. You probably could almost put your horn away, Jose, if you're talking about what's really going on in the world right now. I mean, things get ridiculouser and ridiculouser. So they include family values, but they didn't give an explanation of what constitutes a family. And here he goes. I want to know whether that includes same-sex marriage and respect for people in my family. Well, did he divorce Narissa and marry some guy? I have 2 adult gay children who are incredibly normal and exude great family values. Well, that makes all the difference, doesn't it? If it's you, then it's got to be for everybody. And how many times do we hear that from the pro-choicers? Just because you are against abortion, don't you try to impress your values on everybody else. It's a woman's autonomy. So I'm going to repeat. I want to know whether that includes same-sex marriage and respect for people in my family. I have 2 adult gay children who are incredibly normal and exude great family values. Well, if they're your children, yeah, they're part of your family. It doesn't matter.
This straw man has been burning and is lit on fire.
Yeah, he finally got a chance to bring this straw man forward. I also want to know whether they believe the Trump lie that the election was rigged and that Joe Biden is an illegitimate president. Yeah, so what we've got here is dueling hit pieces. Which is it going to be, Michael or Felix that gets hit hardest with the hit pieces? The big lie. The real big lie is that everything was normal in the 2020 election, because it wasn't. And people that keep talking about the big lie, what is it, Jose? Projection?
Massive amounts.
Yeah. I also want to know whether they, meaning Felix and Anna, believe the Trump lie that the election was rigged and that Joe Biden is an illegitimate president. When asked in February 24 KUAM interview, Camacho chuckled and stated there was a lot of corruption and that he is waiting for the truth to be exposed in court. Wow. Yeah. Trump supporters have lost 60 court challenges related to corruption in the election. Some cases went to the Supreme Court, but even declined to rule on them. The courts have already ruled on the election lie told by Trump and his supporters. I'm convinced, Jose. For sure, I'm going to vote in the primary. I'm not going to do early voting. I'm going to go to the polls, but I'll tell you one thing for sure. I am not going to vote for Trump after this exposure. I'm not going to vote for Trump. Wow. I wonder if Robert ever got a hold of that excuse that Felix's mother had to write that time, that Felix had to stay after school because he was naughty during recess. You know, a whole paragraph about Trump. Yeah, you were on the phone, but I've made up my mind. I'm going to vote. I'm going to go to the polls. I'm not going to early vote, but I'm absolutely sure that when I vote in the gubernatorial primary, I'm not going to vote for Trump. Robert convinced me. Apparently, you know, based on what he's got, apparently Camacho is a supporter of the big lie. At the very least, he doesn't fully embrace the fact that Joe Biden is the duly elected president of the United States. He laughed twice in the interview. Oh, my God.
Smoking gun.
He laughed twice during the interview.
He got him.
Yeah, well,
October surprise.
Yeah, that's it. The election, no sense going to the polls. It's over. Yeah, so, you know, when I read that, you know what I thought? I thought Felix is just laying the foundation to become vice president of the United States. When Biden dies of old age, Kamala ratchets up to the front chair and she says, I want someone who can laugh when they're asked a serious question. Yeah. Gosh. Apparently, Camacho is a supporter of the big lie. At the very least, he doesn't fully embrace the fact that Joe Biden is a duly elected president of the United States. He laughed twice in the interview, although I didn't see the humor in the question.
How dare you?
Yeah, so that's the acid test, right? I got a feeling that if Robert were ever forced to listen to Tall Tales, he wouldn't appreciate what passes for humor on the show either. That would hurt bad. How will a Camacho administration fare in Washington? One of his pillars includes a right to life for the unborn. He is clearly pro-life for expectant mothers. Will he be pro-life in a new pandemic? What? Moreover, a candidate who is both pro-life and pro-lie needs to rectify the two. Pro-life and pro-lie just don't seem to go together.
Oh, my gosh.
And the Daily News runs this, I suppose.
This was a front page? This was a, man,
Yeah.
wow.
I don't have the Daily News here today. Now, I've saved the best for last. Okay, let's head for Wrigley Field and see if we can get somebody to laugh at Wrigley Field.
Choice Broadcasting introduces their unbeatable lineup of morning show.
Hands down winners of Guam's morning radio battle.
Daryl Lizama grooves his way through Boss 104 playing Guam's favorite classic hits.
Morning mouth Ray Gibson shakes the cage on 93.3 The Point.
And now, we are proud to announce the Morning Blender with Kyle Mandapat, mixing it up at sunrise on Star 101.
If you're an advertiser trying to reach the most valuable ears, we've got the shows that listeners have been tuning into for decades.
One call gets all three.
671-888-7346. That's 888-REIO.
Listen to The Point anytime, anywhere on Odyssey. Odyssey is your new audio home for all the music, news, sports, and podcasts that matter to you. Find your favorite stations like The Point and discover more. Music stations, local and trusted news sources, sports talk and team coverage, plus today's biggest podcasts. Find it all on the Odyssey app. AUDACY.
Okay, so I've got Frenchie on the line, and I know Frenchie is no fan of Robert Underwood, and I'm sure that we'll get a laugh or two out of Frenchie. Robert probably won't find it funny, but I do want to wrap this up because it makes it so clear. So we talked first about MSN, and then we go to Felix, and now it's Leon Guerrero and Tenorio. Well, he was very critical of the first two, and you know, that's the job of a pundit. If there's something to criticize, you jump in and criticize it. I do it myself all the time. Now, here's Leon Guerrero Tenorio. I bet you Robert is really going to tear into them, too. Here it goes. We know the Maga Haga and the Segundo Maga Lahi in the person of Nurse Leon Guerrero and competent assistant Tenorio. Lots of people criticize everything they say or do. I don't agree with every decision they made, but there's no doubt that they are in charge, and they have dealt with the worst crisis involving life and death in recent history. No other governor has dealt with life and death issues on almost a daily basis.
Wrong.
They made unpopular decisions in the midst of adolescent whining by anti-vaxxers and self-proclaimed constitutional experts. They held firm. Their policies saved many of us, including the doubters, from themselves. Critics tried to portray Nurse Leon, not Governor Leon, Nurse Leon Guerrero as a heartless dictator. Who would do something like that?
I have no idea.
People, smart asses calling her the Red Queen.
People with humor.
Yeah. Widely criticized for being pro-choice, which means pro-abortion, of course, she actually followed the most pro-life policies in public health.
He did not read the CDC report today, did he?
Yeah, and he didn't see the movie Gaslight when it ran on Channel 39. A little gaslighting here. Widely criticized for being pro-choice, she actually followed the most pro-life policies in public health. He doesn't even understand right speak. The opponents were ironically advocating for the choice between mask wearing and vaccines. Now here's the punchline. The critics' pro-choice course of action would have led to more deaths. Yeah, wow. Nice going, Robert.
He went from vaccines to abortion?
Yeah. A nice piece of work. Okay, so, Frenchie, I know that you've been pretty critical of Robert Underwood in the past, and I think he has really outdone himself with these pieces in the paper. So if you feel like you want to be critical of Robert Underwood, don't let anything that I've said hold you back. Go for it.
Thank you, Robert. Yeah, Booby Underwood is and he's a gravy train. Basically he goes and makes sure that he justifies his paycheck from Guadeloupe. It's just amazing. The man is so hypocritical and so full of contradiction. He doesn't even see the contradiction. That's the amazing part. Here is a guy that has spent his whole life at the expense of the taxpayer and did pretty well and continues to do so. And now he's coming and being pretending to be a political observer, which he's not. He's a failed politician. That's what he is. But Lou needs him and the pro-independence group in order to win the primary. She wants to pull. Last time it was the former governor that ran against Agun, and she was able to win by 300 votes. This time it's both attacking St. Nicholas and hoping there is enough Gulf Guam people and pro-independence people that will vote for her to put her over the top at the primary. Those people are quite idiotic, pretending. I love. When I was in Europe, there was a American bishop that came, and I thought that was perfect for Lou Leon Guerrero. He said, if you're pretending to be Catholic and pro-abortion or pro-choice, whatever you want to call it, but pro-abortion, it's like pretending to be a vegan and eating hamburger. It's just amazing. Those people just push agendas that they know are flawed, but they are using reverse accusatory, and that's what they do. It's a typical Marxist playbook. They're using it without shame, and it's on one side is destruction of your opponent, and on the other side is renaming something by what it is not. And that's what they do. And Booby Underwood is just that. He's just a pretty pathetic, sad old man. and he's a bitter guy. And like you said, he lost to both San Nicolas and to Camacho, and he's still bitter about it. And he will say and do anything for Lou to win because Lou is pushing the agenda that he's pushing, and that's about it. But if you are a Catholic on this island or a Christian in general, and you're voting for Lou Leon Guerrero, that's what you're doing. You're voting for somebody that pretends to be a vegan and eats hamburger. That's what you do. And
not only eats hamburger, but brags about it. Brags about being,
and brags about it. Yeah, exactly. And all the apparatus behind her, which I want to know something that Underwood didn't ask. What is the issue between Lou and the Bank of Guam, and basically the no competition that she has with other banks on the island regarding holding government funds and the government retirement fund? Those are huge contradictions. I think Candid News brought it forward. Nobody else has, but it is a huge conflict of interest, and nobody, and including Underwood, want to talk about it, because if you start talking about it, it will raise eyebrows. But this is a huge conflict of interest. She should desist herself on putting the fund in a bank. Just saying that she divested is not enough. She should say, "Well, I'm governor. I want the government's bank to be another bank than the Bank of Guam." But she is not going to do it because she put $5 billion of federal fund over the last 3 years, go through her bank and raise the status of her bank, which makes her the only billionaire on the island. And that is full of contradictions. She's pretending to be for the people. She's for herself. She's from her bank account. And Bob Underwood fails to ask those things. What a big lie. If there is a big lie, that's the one here on island, is that Lou Leon Guerrero, the Bank of Guam, and the government of Guam all use the same bank. And that is a huge conflict of interest. And if you're Catholic, on top of that, don't vote for somebody that promotes abortion. That's all what I have to say.
Yeah, and one other thing here, when it came to San Nicolas and Felix Camacho, Underwood, like you said, he's a bitter old man, and he finally, once again, gets to act on his bitterness, take some revenge against those guys by trying to shoot him down and build up Lou so that they could feel the same way he felt when they beat him, right?
Yeah, he's petty. He's petty.
Yeah.
He's the kind of person when you shake his hand, you want to go wash your hands. That's not a compliment, and that's the way it is.
True enough. Well, thanks a lot for chiming in again, Frenchie. We always appreciate your calls.
Have a great weekend.
Thank you. Okay, so here we are about to head for Churchill Downs. And right out of Churchill Downs, I'm going to call on our Keith, who usually is able to ride a horse pretty fast when it's his turn to get on at Churchill Downs. Go ahead.
Gas is expensive, so let the bank come to you. Through our remote deposit capture, you can deposit your checks into your account from your phone. And with our Dynamite Bank Pacific Visa debit card, you can use your money anytime, anywhere. It's the perfect combo.
Now we're banking on the future. Services to choose. Bank Pacific, where others put branches, we place roots.
Equal housing lender. Member FDIC. Crank it up.
Wow, nice smile. So perfect and all.
Thanks. I owe it all to Dr. Robert Yang and his Smile team. They do wonders for a healthy, happy mouth.
Got teeth? Don't wait until they hurt. Schedule your routine checkup and cleaning with Dr. Yang and his Smile Team. Suite 119 in the East West Business Center, Upper Tumon. Call 647-8702 or 3.
The best thing that happened to teeth since toothpaste.
Dr. Yang and his Smile Team.
They make smiles happen.
So here we are. The Ohio River separates Kentucky and Indiana. On one side of the Ohio River, it's Indiana. On the other side, it's Kentucky. And there's a city right there on that river called Louisville, Kentucky. Probably Louisville because of the French fur traders who were the first Europeans that explored that area. And in that town of Louisville, there's a racetrack. And it has a kind of a strange name for a racetrack. It's called Churchill Downs. And nobody much cares about Churchill Downs. Well, up until 4 years ago, nobody much cared about Churchill Downs all year round. But when you come to about, I think it's the first Sunday in May, the Kentucky Derby is running for Churchill Downs, and everybody pays attention to that. So now Churchill Downs is famous for two really important things. One, the Kentucky Derby. Two, at the end of every show, before I finally sign off, I always pay homage to Churchill Downs and take a virtual trip there for the home stretch of the show. And I can't tell you how grateful the people in Louisville are for that. I suspect that we'll be selling thousands of tailgater T-shirts in Louisville as soon as we get production capabilities up to speed, because everybody in Louisville, I'm sure, loves Tall Tales. Okay, let's find out what R. Keith can tell us about Robert Underwood. Go ahead, R. Keith.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Quick question, Bob. Have you ever been to Churchill Downs?
I never have. I've been to Louisville, but never Churchill Downs.
Yeah, eventually I'm going to end up retiring back on the mainland. I got family back there. I got to say, I think I need to attend a Kentucky Derby there one of these days. That would be fun.
Yes.
Anyway, you're hard to follow Frenchie. He's a hard act to follow, so I won't try.
It's kind of like going on. It's kind of like going on stage after Elvis, isn't it?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So I won't try to compete. I'll just add what I can. One of the contradictions, or at least curiosities, that I picked up upon about 10 minutes ago when you were reading Underwood's creed, was he opined about what a Felix administration how it would go over in Washington. This is the same guy who's pulling for independence and dislikes all those occupiers from Washington, D.C. So why should he care what impact or opinion said people would have on the Guam administration? I mean, isn't he pushing for independence?
That's the way I read what he writes.
Okay. Well, I was just sort of curious. The other is the over-the-top gushing regarding our governor and the COVID business. I may not be making a whole lot of friends with some of this, but in retrospect, COVID was not the Black Plague, okay? When it's all said and done, it had a 99.5% survivability rate. Now, as you get up in years, or if you have certain medical conditions, yes, that number does go down. But on an average, a 99.5% recovery rate. And recent data, and this is not me, this is obvious, this is either CDC evidence or global evidence, have shown that the vax doesn't do a damn thing in regards to stopping the spread of COVID. Our dear leader in Washington has had every shot imaginable, and yet he's had COVID 3 times. The head of Pfizer has COVID, and he's had every shot imaginable. Masks have been shown, and this is CDC data, this is not my opinion, masks have shown to do or have no impact on the spread, at least the masks that are worn by the vast majority of people. Don't do a thing regarding the spread of the disease. Little viruses are too small. They fit through the cracks. So let's not try and frame this like she's the second coming and save the island from the Black Death, okay? She did what she did. I understand some of the conservative measures that were employed in the beginning. We didn't know. But as time went on and data started to leak out, you know, she didn't do a thing, and she keeps pushing the whole vax nonsense. So let's not put her right up there alongside, you know, other astute.
This rumor that people are petitioning her to change her name to Florence Nightingale. That's just not.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I'm sorry. Let's be for real. The only thing that she really, over the whole term of the COVID nonsense, the only thing that she really successfully did was enrich government employees and destroy the Guam economy. It could also be said that she's done a number on Guam culture, I believe. And here I've got a question for you, something that I've been wanting to ask. I have lived on Guam now for 6 years, and I visited Guam for work for about 8 years before that. I do not recall this much crime ever being on Guam as it is now. Every time I look at the newspaper, there are murders and rapes and child molestations. Is that just a media artifact, or indeed is it growing? And if it has, to me, it's been just over the past 2 years.
Seems right to me, yeah.
So, you know, correlation there. And why is no politician pointing that out?
Well,
go ahead.
I think that both the newspapers, if there were any doubt with the Daily News, I think today's article that I just finished up with really put a cap on it. They want Underwood to win. The Post, you know, when the Post doesn't run a hit piece against Michael San Nicolas, it's news. So it looks like the papers, at least, are not going to put anything out there that is going to hurt the governor.
Oh, that much I understand. And they're bought and sold, as Frenchie said. They receive a paycheck. I just don't understand why the loyal opposition, be it the Republicans or be it Michael St. Nicholas, don't pull out the old tried and true, are you better off than you were 4 years ago bit. You know, and point out what she has done to this island. I mean, crime's up, economy's down. The only thing that's kept this place afloat has been federal funding. And then she turns around and her and Underwood and the mob bite the hand that feeds them. That's really not the way to run a railroad successfully. And I don't understand why any politician isn't saying that.
Well, we know from recent events that one of them advances his confusion as his MO as being a member of the so-called loyal opposition.
I know who you're talking about, yes, and I fully agree. It's just Michael St. Nicholas is the one that I'm confused about. I mean, I like the guy, and I just don't understand why he is not out there hitting hard.
Yeah, that is kind of an enigma, isn't it? Because it has been something that he could do before. He back in the days of the Wampat 10, he organized his San Nicolas Posse, and he was very effective in not only turning the legislature away from the money, but winning the hearts and minds of the people. Perhaps the kangaroo court that the House of Representatives put him through kind of dulled his fighting urge. I don't know.
It's a shame. I really do fear that witch is going to get reelected, and we will all suffer as a result of it. And I really had hoped there's so much ammunition out there that could be used against her. Figuratively speaking, it's just disappointing to me.
Well, and another enigma here, Keith, is there are people that want to be senators. There are a lot of challengers, people, not non-incumbents. Where are they? There's so much good stuff out there for a challenger to really make a name for themselves. You know, there's opportunity out there, and I don't even know who's running. If I look at a list, oh yeah, I remember him, but I don't see anybody doing any real political warfare when the targets are so plentiful.
Yes, not only plentiful, but apparent. It would seem that the only, and maybe it's just my what I'm seeing, the only people playing hardball, blood sport, are the Democrats. And the far left Democrats, everyone else is this milk toasty. Yeah, I'd really like to replace them. I don't think they're doing the good. It's maddening. It's maddening.
Indeed.
Oh, well. That's my 2 cents for the week.
Well, I'll see your 2 cents and raise you a nickel, Arcade. Your comments are always valuable. So,
take it easy, gentlemen.
Excuse
have
me.
a good weekend.
Well, we never have a good weekend. You're a tailgater. You know that Jose and I hate the weekends because we can't.
Oh, by the way, I do want a T-shirt. I'm going to order one.
Hey, good deal. Wear it every Friday. Put it on late Friday afternoon. Wear it Friday afternoon. Wear it Saturday. Fly the flag. Be proud of being a tailgater, right?
Sounds good.
Good talking to you, Arcade. So long. Yeah, there's another soon-to-be satisfied customer, or Keith. So next item on the card is Levin versus Joey Terlahi. And then after that, I've got Priscilla Tuncap versus the Civil Service Commission. But I think I'll leave these guys until Monday and just kind of pick up on some of the things that Keith and I were talking about. There are a lot of open seats in the legislature this time. And there are challengers out there. I don't recall a challenger calling this show even once. Do you, Jose?
We've had, I think, one. Harvey Agnes called in before.
Has he? Yeah, yes. He's on Facebook from time to time.
We see some of them on the comments, but not called in. And
yeah,
calling in would be very beneficial.
I would think so. If you are a candidate, you want to get your face and voice wherever you possibly can. I don't hear any advertising from challengers.
I'm not a campaign manager, but I'm a voter. And one thing that I haven't heard from any of the challengers, Republican or Democrat legislatures, are we will work as another branch of government and not the same branch as executive.
Exactly.
Because that's what we've been seeing for the past 2 years.
Exactly. So, and with my conversation with Keith, this Dr. Gwen's letter to the editor, open letter to the people, is political dynamite, especially if you're a Republican or if you're Chris Barnett, a maverick Democrat. So but of course it is Friday, so there's no sense doing anything with it until Monday. You come out Monday with both guns blazing, all the media, maybe even get yourself a sign and stand out on the side of the road. We need OBGYNs. Well, what do I know about it? I guess it's time to say goodbye to our president. 70 hours. We'll be back 1600 on Monday. See you then. And let's go, Brandon.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
The judge says he's inclined to unseal some of the Mar-a-Lago affidavit. I'm Jack Callahan, Fox News. The Justice Department has a week to suggest what parts of the affidavit used to get the warrant to search the former president's home should be kept secret.
Federal Judge Bruce Reinhardt said he's inclined to release some of the affidavit that led to the FBI raid at former President Trump's Mar-a-Lago home. Now the Justice Department has about a week to suggest any redactions, but the judge will have the final say. Judge Reinhardt also ordered some of the documents related to the search warrant to be unsealed, including the application for the warrant. The affidavit will likely reveal the informant and what information they provided to the federal government that greenlighted that search warrant.
Fox's Matt Finn. Trump attorney Alina Habba tells Fox's Hannity she doesn't expect we'll see much.
I would expect that we'll get a lot of black ink all over that piece of paper. If I was the DOJ, a Biden DOJ, I'd probably be redacting everything other than the word and the.
Government attorneys argued that unsealing the warrants could reveal the names of witnesses and informants. The Biden administration making plans to end taxpayer funding for coronavirus vaccines.
The Wall Street Journal first reported the Department of Health and Human Services will hold a planning session at the end of the month with big drug makers, pharma, and health officials. HHS says it will take months to shift payments for COVID vaccines to the commercial market. It's not clear how 30 million people in the United States without health insurance will be covered. An HHS spokesman tells Fox, quote, HHS is engaging closely with these stakeholders to plan and ensure that the transition happens smoothly when the time does come.
Fox's Lucas Tomlinson. The U.S. is setting aside an extra 50,000 doses of monkeypox vaccine for places with upcoming gay pride events. The CDC says the vast majority of the cases are among men who've had sex recently with other men. America is listening to Fox News.
Get all of your favorite Fox News podcasts ad-free on Apple Podcasts with Fox News Podcasts Plus. From Trey Gowdy, the Fox News Rundown, Will Kane, Brian Kilmeade, and so much more. Go to foxnewspodcasts.com for all the details. The Fox News Rundown, a contrast of perspectives you won't hear anywhere else. Your daily dose of news twice a day, featuring insight from top newsmakers, reporters, and Fox News contributors. Listen and